Dr. Aseem Malhotra is a British National Health Service trained consultant cardiologist, co-founder of Action on Sugar, and former honorary council member at Stanford University School of Medicine. Doctor, it's great to have you with us. Thank you very much.
That's a great question, Martha. So actually, the situation is even a little bit worse. What I focus on is what we call metabolic health, which is really at the root of many of these chronic diseases, heart disease in particular, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and probably has a big role to play even in cancer and dementia. So what's the causes of the causes? Well, it's very clear that a primary factor, if not the primary factor, is poor diet. You cannot fix health and healthcare until you fix the food. So what should we be targeting? And over the last several years, there's been a growing body of evidence now suggesting that ultra-processed food, which makes up more than 60% of the calories in the American diet, is probably the primary driver. And what does that mean? It's industrially produced products that are high in unhealthy oils, combinations of unhealthy oils, refined carbohydrates, sugar, additives and preservatives, and usually if you can count 5 or more ingredients, then it's ultra processed.
Yeah,
and these are linked to many health problems.
Yeah.
So interestingly, Martha, even my own experience with managing many patients who actually do reverse their chronic disease, they come off their diabetes pills, they send their type 2 diabetes into remission, their blood pressure comes down. This happens very rapidly in individuals within weeks. So it is very, very plausible that you could easily achieve what Robert Kennedy Jr. and President Trump want, is to reverse this chronic disease pandemic, or certainly the trends in the next few years. So what do you need to do? Well, this is primarily an environmentally driven disease. You know, these ultra-processed foods have become unavoidable. And the parallels I would make, and I advised the Secretary of State for Health in the UK, Matt Hancock, on this a few years ago during the COVID pandemic, is ones with tobacco. So how do we get tobacco under control? You know, in the 1970s and 80s, in fact, the US led the world on this in tobacco control. It was actually through specific policies that address the availability, the affordability, and the acceptability of tobacco. So what does that mean? The single biggest intervention, interestingly, people mustn't forget this, that had the biggest impact on reducing smoking was actually raising the price of cigarettes through taxation. So ultra-processed foods should be taxed. There should be a public health education campaign, of course, that teach people what ultra-processed food is. But also we should think about certain places which shouldn't really be endorsing or promoting or legitimizing these foods, such as hospitals. Why are hospitals, certainly in the UK, and I'm sure it's similar in the US, 70% of the foods purchased in hospitals are ultra-processed? Schools, should we be allowing these foods? Because what it does is it legitimizes the acceptability of these foods. So I'm not for banning them. That doesn't work. People should be allowed to have the occasional treat, and that's okay. But what's happened now in the American diet, and I've spent a lot of time in America, I consider it my second home, it's almost impossible at times, Martha, to find actually healthy food, minimally processed or real food.